Call this meeting of the Board of Supervisors of January 5th, 2013 to order. Roll call, please.
Supervisor Bronson? Supervisor Carroll?
Here.
Supervisor Elias? Supervisor Miller?
Here.
Chairman Valadez?
Present.
Let the record show all members are present.
Today's invocation will be offered by Pastor Dane Miller from Serenity Baptist Church and will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Supervisor Bronson. Everyone, please stand.
Let's pray. Father, this is a gorgeous desert morning, and we are so thankful to be in a place where we can enjoy the creation together. These men and women have been entrusted with leadership by the people who live in this desert land. And we ask for wisdom for them, Father, as they make decisions, as they think about the lives, the very diverse lives that are represented in this county. Give them insight, Lord. Give them creativity. And we are, again, so thankful for their service and for your presence among us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor. Next, we move on to Pause for Pause, and we have Officer Bowden here with Goofy, who's an Airedale Terrier mixed with Rottweiler that's 1 year and 11 months old. Goofy.
Goofy.
Richard, otherwise known as Richard.
Come on, Goofy. Good morning. This is Goofy. This is Goofy, who we've guessed to be part Airedale, part Rottweiler. He is 1 year and 11 months old, so he has a birthday coming up. So we'd like to get him out of here to celebrate that outside the shelter. He has already been neutered and microchipped. He was found that way with the microchip and neutering, and the person that had originally owned him never claimed him. So he is available for adoption, has been so for the past month, and since he's been there since February 1st, his adoption rate has been discounted. So he is now $10 plus the $15 licensing fee, which is $25. We are having an event this Saturday, though. We're having a tail wagon tailgate party. That will begin at 8 a.m. You can come in to walk the dogs, cuddle the cats. There's going to be family activities, crafts, that sort of thing. From 10 a.m. till 1 p.m., we will be doing an adoption-a-thon because it is puppy and kitten season again. So it's going to be name your price. So if this guy waits until Saturday, if nobody takes him before then, you'll be able to name your price on him. So anything you name plus the $15 licensing fee. So encourage everybody to come down, even just for fun, free event, food, that sort of thing. And check out our animals, give them a little bit of your time, walk some of the dogs, cuddle some of the cats, and just join in the fun. And that's on 4000 North Silverbell at our shelter. And you can reach us at 243-5900 if you have any questions. There are plenty of cats and dogs to be adopted. We're open from noon until 7 on weekdays and 10 till 5 on weekends. So he'll be available as of noon today if you want to come on down and adopt him. If you have a dog already at home, we can make arrangements for you to bring your dog down to get to know him and see if they get along. He's right now, this morning I weighed him. He's 75 pounds. Hey, big boy. He's not going to get any taller, though. He is his adult size. Depending on how much you feed him, he could get bigger. Last week I brought in a dog that was 126 pounds. Very large dog, just went up for adoption. So if you're interested in a large dog, he should be available. He was neutered yesterday, so he's ready to go. But again, there are plenty of dogs down there. Lots of tiny dogs too, lots of cats. You're welcome to come on down and check them out, spend some time with them. If you want to volunteer, we're always looking for volunteers. Please get in touch with somebody from our volunteer department. If you want to come down and check that out, you're welcome to. You can also call by phone, the same 243-5900 number, and make arrangements to sign up for volunteering. If you don't want to volunteer, but you still want to help and you don't have room in your homes, you can always go to our website, pimaanimalcare.org, click on the green donate button, and give any amount you like. No amount's too small, no amount is too big. The bigger the better, though, just like Goofy here. Goofy's very well-mannered, Very polite, as you can see, sits. He will run nicely. I jogged with him this morning around the lake. He didn't seem too interested in chasing the ducks, so he seems to be very well-mannered. So if you're interested in Goofy, please come on down. And by all means, be sure to stop by our event this weekend, the Tail Wagon tailgate party. Oh, and I forgot to mention, to get the Name Your Price, you have to be wearing U of A gear. And the U of A gear, since it's the cats, the Wildcats, our cats will be free. So free cats on Saturday. Come on down and check that out.
Well, Goofy looks like the kind of dog who is interested in wellness, health and wellness, and likes to jog. And I notice we have some of our staff here, and we're going to be talking about health and wellness and self-insurance. And it seems to me that maybe they really need to think about seriously adopting Goofy.
Oh, he would be an excellent jogging partner. And so, yeah, if you're looking into fitness and need somebody to go jogging with you, I don't think Goofy's ever going to turn you down.
I also heard Mr. Huckleberry talking to Reed Spalding right now, and Mr. Spalding's going to volunteer to come and clean up your yard weekly if you adopt Goofy, and we certainly appreciate that. And we're working on Mr. Bolzomi to see if he's going to take care of the 126-pound dog's yard. So it certainly puts them in a realm of a job they can do. Thank you.
Well, that's quite generous. We'll be sure to notate his kennel card with that information.
Well, I believe that Mr. Spalding's the Kansas Jayhawk fan. They're not as good as our bright colors of U of A, but they're kind of the same. Does that count?
I'm sure that they could make, if it means putting an animal into a home, then absolutely. We will do what we can to get every home a pet. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, I did want to announce that Pima County's Top Dog poster contest is in effect. If anyone is interested, you actually get, the winning dog will get a free professional photo session and plenty of treats and toys. If you're interested, email your dog's picture in PDF or JPEG format to posterdog@pima.gov. And include
Is that going to be the Pima mascot?
Maybe, but listen to who gets to pick the finalists. It includes include a few words about why your dog deserves to be famous. The Sheriff's Department staff will pick 5 finalists, and the public will vote on the winner.
How do they vote?
What's that?
How does the public vote? Are you going to have something on a website?
It'll for more information, go to www.pima.gov/animalcare. The contest ends on March 18th of this year.
Very good.
Mr. Chairman,
Supervisor Leos,
if we're done with Pause for Pause, I'd like to ask for a moment of personal privilege.
please proceed.
I would just like to thank the Natural Resources and Parks and Recreation staff for the work they did on the Canoa Ranch opening this weekend. It was an excellent event in District 4, and I was able to attend on behalf of Supervisor Carroll. He was unable to make it, but it was an event rich with people's memories and recognition for what the county has done over time with the cultural resources that we have within the boundaries of our community. Was beautifully done and with great care, I would add. And I would also say that the memories of the folks who lived there at Canoa Ranch were powerful as they were retold. And seeing families being able to reunite and share memories and moments of time that they spent together on that ranch in the past was very moving. The other thing that was not lost on the crowd was its significance in really changing the way Pima County did business on many of its rezonings. So it was really a grand event. I'd like to thank staff, Rafael, and everybody who was out there. I know they worked really, really hard and just appreciated what they did. And I know Congressman Grijalba appreciated it as well as his family. It was very moving to see his 90-year-old mother return to the home that she had lived in together with her husband back in the days of the ranch's operation. And I just wanted to mention that so that everyone would know that that transpired and that our staff done an excellent job with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Hearing none, I do have several changes to the agenda. They are the following. Page 2, item 8, County Administrator, unfinished business, Literacy Connect. Staff requests that this item be continued to the Board of Supervisors meeting of March 19th, 2013. Page 3, item 9, Development Services, final plat. It should be without assurances, not with assurances. On consent calendar, page 2, item 1C9, contract county administrator. It's a correction. A vendor name should be, and let me spell, it's Balchak, Bolchalc. On page 5, consent calendar, item 3B1, boards, commissions, and/or committee, Metropolitan Energy Commission appointment. It should be Daniel Millis, not Daniel Mills. Without objection, those will be the changes to the agenda. And we move on to presentations. Item 5A, LULAC Youth Conference Leadership Day. Supervisor Elias.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the item. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please signify by saying nay. Ayes have it. I'll ask Supervisor Elias to please make the presentation. Lieutenant Raul Ramirez from the Pima County Sheriff's Corrections Office is here to receive the proclamation.
We have this proclamation that we put together on behalf of LULAC in its 24th anniversary of its conference, its Youth Leadership Conference. But just a moment to brag on LULAC, which has been a fine organization here in the United States. It's the oldest Latino national organization, fraternal organization here in the United States of America. It was really born following World War II by a group of GIs in Texas that started something called the American GI Forum. And really it was about standing up to segregation, because these guys had fought in a very difficult war in difficult circumstances, and they came home and found themselves unable to educate their children and themselves in the manner they chose, unable to attend church and worship in the manner they chose. And they started an organization to combat all that, and they've had a fine history, and they continue to add to the fabric and texture of our community with their focus on youth and education and getting kids to graduate, which is such an important issue for us all, and particularly the police organizations and military organizations, and frankly, the FBI that has been supportive of LULAC over the years have made a tremendous difference. So in addition to all of that history, I'd like to thank Lieutenant Munoz here for his service on behalf of the Sheriff's Department, but also on behalf of LULAC, because I think in many ways those things are tied together. Whereas on March 12, 2013, the League of United Latin American Citizens will hold its 24th conference themed Education is the Key to Success, Unlock Your Possibilities. And whereas it is our responsibility to be more proactive in helping young students pursue their dreams and goals by encouraging them to become the next generation of leaders in our community, state, and country. And whereas many of today's young people do not pursue higher education because of the lack of resources, poor decisions, drug use, or gang involvement. And whereas the primary goal of the LULAC Youth Leadership Conference is to urge middle and high school students to stay in school and pursue a higher education, while at the same time providing students with vital education, health, prevention, and safety information. Whereas, since its founding in 1988, more than 100,000 middle and high school students from across Arizona, California, New Mexico, Texas, and Mexico have participated in the conference, and whereas for over 20 years, LULAC has joined with Pima Community College, the Southern Arizona Institute of Leadership, the Metropolitan Education Commission, the education community, and numerous volunteers to plan this conference, which will ensure vital information and resources are provided to our next generation of leaders. Now therefore be it resolved that the Pima County Board of Supervisors hereby proclaim Tuesday, March 12, 2013 to be LULAC Youth Conference Leadership Day, passed and adopted this 5th day of March 2013. Please just give them a round of applause.
Good morning, everyone. Currently, I'm the Public Safety Co-Chair and Keynote Presentation Coordinator of the Youth Leadership Conference. And on behalf of LULAC, we want to thank the county for your continued support.
Thank you very much.
Is there anyone here from the Women's Commission? Yes, okay. All right, we do have item 5B, which is Women in Government Day. Is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Motion and a second to approve the item. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please signify by saying nay. Ayes have it. Supervisor Miller, would you please do the honors? Please come up. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. This proclamation is to honor women who served in government, and it is presented today. Cecilia is here to accept the award. And the proclamation, whereas March has been proclaimed Women's History Month by the President of the United States, and whereas all citizens are called upon to observe this month with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities that honor the accomplishments and contributions of American women. And whereas countless women have contributed to the history of the Pima County government and the surrounding regional jurisdictions, and whereas this month enables us to honor the contributions of the many women who have demonstrated superb leadership and service to and on behalf of Pima County and the City of Tucson. And whereas Pima County and the City of Tucson have joined in partnership with the Pima County Tucson Women's Commission to celebrate the contributions of women in local government service. Now therefore be it resolved that the Pima County Board of Supervisors hereby proclaim Friday, March 8th, 2013 to be Women in Government Day, and urges all citizens of Pima County to recognize and remember those women who have assisted and shaped local government, passed and adopted this 5th day of March 2013. Thank you very much. Congratulations. Would you like to say a few words?
Thank you. I would like to thank Pima County from the bottom of our hearts. The Pima County Tucson Women's Commission has celebrated now many years of existence, and many of those years are due to the fact that Pima County has been supportive. They have helped us in so many ways, in-kind support as well as cash support. And so the Tucson Women's Commission continues to be able to present wonderful events like this one. Women in Government is one of our signature events, and we're so proud of it because it's our way of being able to say thank you to all of the women who are the backbone of so many events and activities in so many of the agencies, and we're just proud to be a part of recognizing all those women.
And Cecilia, you want to tell us a little bit, you've got the event coming up and you're going to be honoring some women. You may want to mention a little bit of that.
We are, in fact, honoring Katie Dusenberry, who was one of our leading supporters from many years ago. We consider her one of the founders, along with Barbara Weinman from the city, who helped to shape the ordinance that created the commission. We are honoring 3 founders, actually, and we are presenting awards to, I believe it's 165 women this year that were nominated to receive awards. We have 5 categories in which women will receive awards, and one of those categories includes teams, so that the teams is the number of women that has raised the number of nominees that we have this year. So we're very excited about that. We will be at the Tucson Museum of Art Moore Courtyard on Friday, March the 8th, from 11 to 1. We invite all of you to come and attend and witness, at the very least, witness the nomination process and the award process.
Mr. Chairman,
Supervisor Leos.
before you leave, Cecilia, you know, Women in Government Day is a significant event for the Women's Commission, and I think it's very important to honor women who have been in leadership positions. But Cecilia Vindiola, who is here with us this morning, you know, has had a distinguished career in government herself, and somehow has made it to retirement through the wastewater gang over there. Very proud of you, Cecilia, proud of the career that you've had. You're exemplary of women in government, and what you really do is just work better and harder than everyone else. We're really proud of that. The other thing I'd add that's especially appropriate for Cecilia, because she has been an activist in our community for many other issues, aside from government. And we're very proud of that work as an activist, and her retirement day is actually Cesar Chavez's birthday, March 31st of this year. So I'm particularly proud of that as well, and I know that's especially meaningful to you too. So thank you, Cecilia, for your work.
Thank you very much.
We should give her a round of applause.
Thank you. We do have one session on the executive session calendar. Is there a motion to move into executive session?
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second to go into executive session. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All opposed, please signify by saying nay. Ayes have it. We will return at the sound of the gavel, which should be in just a few minutes. Chuck? He's over there. Call this meeting back to order. We had one item on the consent or the executive session calendar. Council, please.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. The item that we discussed was on the board of the Flood Control District Board of Directors addendum agenda, and it concerns Pima County Flood Control District versus Jeremy Perez et al., Pima County Superior Court case number C 2009-3554. This is an eminent domain case to acquire property located at 2221 South Mission Road for the Paseo de Iglesias project, and there is a trespass counterclaim involved in this lawsuit. The proposed settlement of the case acquires the needed property for the project and resolves all issues for a total payment of $205,500. That amount includes various categories of payments. The Flood Control District Chief Engineer and the Real Property Services Management Manager recommend approval of the settlement.
Mr. Chairman,
Supervisor Elias,
I want to recommend the county attorney's recommendation.
would you like to recommend it or move it?
I said I was going to move the county attorney's recommendation.
Motion
Is
and
that what I
second.
said?
Yeah, you recommend the recommend.
I got distracted by the audience.
All right, motion before us is on the approval of the county attorney's recommendation. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All opposed, please signify by saying nay. Ayes have it. Moving on to Board of Supervisors, sitting as other boards. We have Flood Control District Board, item A and B.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move those two items.
Second.
Motion and second to approve item A and B on the regular agenda under Flood Control District Board. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please signify by saying nay. Ayes have it. Board of Supervisors sitting in regular session. Moving on to item number 6, consent calendar. Is there anyone here who would like to address the board to call an item on the consent calendar and to call to the public?
Mr. Chairman,
Supervisor Elias.
seeing no one come forward to address us on any of the items on consent, I'm going to go ahead and move consent as we amended earlier.
And it's, as amended and in its entirety.
Supervisor Miller.
Second.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to pull a few items from the consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I'll remove my motion.
Does the seconder agree? Okay. Supervisor Miller.
Item C9, B5, B6, B7, and B8.
Okay,
And-
so I've got item B5 on page 1 and 6, on page 2, B7 and 8, and C9, correct?
Correct.
That's D as in David.
No, B as in boy.
B as in
B as in boy.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I'm sorry.
It's okay, thank you for the clarification. Supervisor Miller.
Okay, addressing item C9, the question I have on that item is that Mr. Nordenson has come to work full-time for Pima County, and the original contract was $50,000 and prior amendments were $600,000. And what I note on here is that the contract expires, it terminates on March 18th, 2013. And my question is, number one, why are we renewing a contract for 2 weeks? Is there just some wrap-up work that needs to be done by this company? We do have 10 full-time employees in our PR media department here at Pima County, and since then we've hired Mr. Nordenson. And that was really my question to Mr. Huckleberry, is there just wrap-up work to be done, or is this a contract that is going to be ongoing?
Mr. Huckleberry.
Yes, Mr. Chairman and Supervisor Miller, a little of both. What obviously when Mr. Nordenson came, and this was a contract which is really a purchasing contract for airtime with regard to either radio or television. And so it was really not for, we'll say, communication or services themselves. It was really the purchase of those services at a discounted rate. And what we did is just simply because of Mr. Nordenson coming to work for the county, felt that it would be a conflict to allow his firm to continue that activity and transfer it at the same cost and rates to Balchek. And so with regard to the extension, I assume we probably have somewhere in the process an extension, but I'll find out. So this is not for direct communication professional services. It's simply for purchasing the time that's needed to air certain items either on the radio or TV.
So is my assumption correct on the March 18th? You will look at that and extend it as we need more airtime? Is that the way?
Yes, usually
Okay.
what we end up doing is this is an extension to purchase in bulk using the lowest rates. And so these are basically, this firm has the same lowest rates, and we will probably extend it for another year. It doesn't mean we'll use those services, it just allows us to use up to that amount.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Tackleberry, Supervisor Miller, I'd just like to add a second link to that. Did you put this bull check fry marketing contract or amendment, is it a way that it can be, if it's going to be for a designated broker or an assigned purchaser of media, is that going to go out to bid? Will others be able to have a chance to bid at that service?
Yes, Mr. Chairman and Supervisor Carroll, this being Amendment 5, we're either getting close or it is at the time in which it gets re-advertised, and everyone who can provide the services has the opportunity to provide them, and we always select at the lowest possible cost.
Thanks very much.
Supervisor Miller.
Okay, thank you. That resolves my issue on that one. And on the items B5, 6, and 7, and 8, first of all, I had a question about item B8. It's an IGA with Santa Cruz County for $30,000, and we're transferring part of the grant money that we get from the, I understand we're part of a consortium called Innovation Frontier Arizona, which supports regional workforce development, economic development, and educational strategies to promote innovation and prosperity in southern Arizona. This grant money comes in through Pima County. Is this just a method of distributing the funds? It comes here and we distribute it to Santa Cruz? Because the question was, why is the money going to Santa Cruz County from Pima County?
Yes, Mr. Chairman and Supervisor Miller. Yes, so we're kind of a hub for the major grant, and I would assume we also do the same for Cochise County, most of southern Arizona. We're typically the grant recipient and the prime administrator, and then we redistribute those monies to those agencies. And in this particular case, it's a similar organization to our One Stop in Santa Cruz County.
Okay, thank you. And just a general on that, on these B5, 6, and 7. The question there is, we do have Pima County One Stop, and then these appear to be additional ways to do community workforce training. Is there a reason that we're not using One Stop as a central hub and moving it out to these areas? What is the rationale behind using these, like, for example, Grace Temple Church and Rise LLC, et cetera, to do this?
Mr. Atha? Turn on your mic, please.
There. Is it on?
The facilities director is next to you. He can help.
I don't know.
Clear as a bell.
But it appears to be on now. Is that correct, Mr. Chairman? Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Miller, the One Stop is actually, it is run by the county, but it actually, the model that it uses is a collaborative model with a number of nonprofit agencies, some of which are actually co-located in the physical One Stop, or One Stops. We actually have two, and some of which operate outside in their own facilities. That's a model that we've had for quite a number of years. It's proved very effective, particularly in reaching out and recruiting, and many of these contracts are really concerned more with the recruiting of participants into the training system.
Mr. Chairman, as a follow-up, Mr. Atha, what involvement does the Workforce Investment Board have, if any, in the allocation of these monies?
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Bronson, the Workforce Investment Board, we actually run a request for proposal for various services at outreach services, training services, and other and case management services. We run that typically on a 2 to 3 year cycle, and the Workforce Investment Board, actually a subcommittee of the Workforce Board, reviews those, makes preliminary recommendations to the full workforce board, and that board then forwards those recommendations to the Board of Supervisors for contracts like these here.
Thank you for the information.
Any other questions? Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Supervisor Elias.
seeing that we got all these questions answered, I'm going to go ahead and move forward and move the entirety of consent as amended this morning.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve consent in its entirety as amended. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please signify by saying nay. Ayes have it. Moving on to item number 7, Mission Gardens. Roger. Supervisor Elias.
We have Roger here who's going to, I think, talk about it a little bit, but I'd certainly like to commend the work. You could pull that mic towards you there, Roger, and talk a little bit. That would be great. But I would like to commend the Friends of Tucson's Birthplace for all the work that they've done so far. And this little magazine is a nice way of describing it all. And before you start, I would like to also add that on Thanksgiving Day, there was a great article in the New York Times on the front of the home section actually talking about the Mission Gardens project here in Tucson and its quality and the importance of heritage trees, which is a really important concept to the folks over at Mission Gardens, but it should be to all of us here in Tucson as well. So thank you, Roger. Just appreciate all the work you did. I just wanted to say that before you got up here and got on a roll, because I've seen it happen before.
You know me.
Roger, please identify yourself for the record.
Yes. My name is Roger Pfeiffer. I'm a co-chair of an organization called Friends of Tucson's Birthplace. We are developing and operating Mission Garden. Address, 904 West Paseo de la Cosecha, Tucson. Chairman Valadez, members of the Board of Supervisors, Mr. Huckleberry, Mr. Straub, thank you for the opportunity of presenting to you our first annual report of the Mission Garden. We signed our three-way agreement, three-way 5-year agreement about last November, and this really completes a full year. I would like to, rather than reading this to you, I would just like to go over some of the highlights with you. If you'll recognize that the cover, our little pollinator here, is page 1, then I can lead you through. This is everybody's welcome guest. Every garden's welcome guest. That little bee. Page 2, we have pictures of our board and some of our fruiting trees. We have added one more member to the board so far in 2013, so we didn't include them in this annual report, which covers 2012. But it's rather unique. But we began investigating the idea of a household couple as our board, as a board member. A couple having one vote and being able to attend meetings, and they are Albert and Jackie Siqueiros, who are well known in this community and are very excited about coming on board. Page 3 then is our cover letter. I'm not going to go through that with you. You can read that at your leisure. Page 4, we're highlighting what Mr. Elias talked about, our Mission Garden, our Spanish Mission Orchard, our heritage tree orchard. This has captured the imagination of the public from Tucson to the entire nation. And as Mr. Elias mentioned, a November 22nd, 2012 feature in the New York Times has caused many Tucson visitors and visitors from all over the country to drop by the garden. Page 5, this describes what we call Phase 2, the Sonoran Desert Native Plant Demonstration Area, and the beginnings of the Timeline Gardens. We plan on planting about 550 native plants between now and the end of May. We already have planted 40 trees, and we'll be getting to the cacti and succulents and bushes a little bit later. Page 6, during Phase 1, we planted 28 grapevines as a test vineyard for a future phase of about 140 grapevines, constituting the recreation of the Mission Garden Vineyard. Page 7, also in Phase 1 area, in the midst of the Heritage Orchard, the volunteers are growing a test garden of winter crops. We hope to have a spring harvest sometime in late March or late April, depending on the maturity rates of the different plants. We have I'itoi onions, acelgas greens, red garlic, Magdalena cilantro, O'odam green peas, Pima green beans, all kinds of things from the native plant, native seed search. Page 8, we have historic structures. They've been recreated during phase 1. They include an authentic mesquite ramada similar to those built by Tucson's original inhabitants, although they are built to pass City of Tucson codes. You ought to see the foundations. And a mission-era style built with peeled pine logs with an ocotillo roof covered in stabilized mud to capture rainwater runoff. The building roof of the storeroom is a saguaro rib ceiling covered by modern dirt roof that will eventually have plants growing from it. We'll also harvest rainwater. Page 9, plant propagation. We have some wonderful donations to the Mission Garden. First, we want to publicly thank the Tucson Cactus and Succulent Society's Cactus Rescue Team and Mr. Bill Thornton for their ongoing donations. Page 10 and 11, from page 10 on, it really goes paragraph by paragraph and explains what the agreement required us to do and what we have accomplished in that year. I will just tell you that at the end of each paragraph, I can say we've done it. And I would like to highlight the fact that our 5-year agreement requires us to raise $350,000. To date, a year and a half into the agreement, we have raised $268,203. I've got a lot more that I could say. I do want to absolutely mention the thank yous, particularly to. Without this kind of widespread community support from both businesses and organizations, we'd not be able to be here today. We'd like to thank Pima County District 5 Supervisor Richard Elias and his entire family who's come out to the garden. District 4 Supervisor Mr. Carroll, who's been a visitor. County Administrator Chuck Huckleberry, who we met with and talked about some aspects of the garden. And Linda Mayrow, the Pima County Historic Preservation Officer. So we want to thank you for that cooperation. And we'll be looking forward to the future growth of the garden. You do realize that the news recently was the city and Rio Nuevo has come to some kind of agreement, so it looks like Rio Nuevo might pick up that responsibility of finishing the Mission Garden financially. We'll still be in charge of doing that. Thank you very much for your time. Any questions?
Any questions for Roger?
I'd just like to thank Roger again for all his work and everything, and you know, we did plant a tree or two out there, me and my dad, and yes, they all laughed profusely at the way I handle a shovel. But I told my dad it was his fault as he had me doing other things throughout my childhood.
Did you have the right end in the dirt?
I got that part right.
Thank you, Roger.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item 8 has been continued. Item 9, final plat without assurances. Item number 9.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move the item.
Second.
Motion and second to approve item number 9. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please signify by saying nay. Ayes have it. Moving on to item 10 and resolution number 2013-13.
I'll go ahead and move item 10, including resolution 2013-13.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve item number 10 and resolution number 2013-13. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please signify by saying nay. Ayes have it. Moving on to item 11, Natural Resources, Parks and Recreation, Unfinished Business Amendment to the Pima Regional Trail System Master Plan and resolution number 2013-6.
Mr. Chairman?
Supervisor Elias?
I'll go ahead and move the item,
I'll
including
second.
resolution 2013-6.
Motion and a second to approve item number 11 and resolution number 2013-6. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman,
Supervisor Carroll?
there was no one who wished to speak on the item 11?
No, there's not.
Okay, thank you very much.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please signify by saying nay. Ayes have it. Moving on to hearings, franchises, licenses, and permits, extension of premises and patio permits.
Mr. Chairman,
Supervisor Elias.
I'm going to go ahead and move items 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18, and close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion and second to close the public hearing and approve items 13 through 18 on the regular agenda. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, please signify by saying nay. Ayes have it. Moving on to development services, rezoning ordinances, number 19, ordinance number 2013-14.
Mr. Chairman,
Supervisor Elias.
I'll go ahead and move developmental services, development services, rezoning ordinance number 2013-14.
Close public hearing.
Close public hearing, thank you.
Second.
Motion before us is on closing public hearing and approving item 19, ordinance number 2013-14. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please signify by saying nay. Ayes have it. Transportation Establishment Resolution, item number 20, and resolution number 2013-14.
Mr. Chairman, if there's no one in the audience that wishes to address us on this item, I move to close the hearing and approve item 20 and resolution 2013-14.
Second.
Motion and a second to close the public hearing and approve item number 20 and resolution number 2013-14. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please signify by saying nay. Ayes have it. Moving on to the addendum agenda. Board of Supervisors sitting in regular session. County Supervisor, item number A, exclusion of county property from Town of Vale proposed boundary. Mr. Cockleberry.
Mr. Chairman and members of the board, this is an item that allows the county to grant permission for an island to be created if another community is created or incorporated, and that is the community of Vale. We are requesting and had consulted previously with the Southwestern Fair Commission with regard to their desires in this matter, and they had indicated in a letter that's attached to the material I sent to the board their desire to not be included in an incorporated community, and this action would effectively allow that to occur and allow Vale to proceed with, I believe, their incorporation petition and create an island as approved by the Board of Supervisors.
Mr. Chairman,
Supervisor Carroll.
is there anyone wishing to speak on the...
We have no cards.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, looking over and visiting with not only the proponents and the opponents of the incorporation, but also from the Fair Commission, as well as its director, John Baker, I think we've come to an agreement that there will be an exclusion of the Pima County Fairgrounds and the surrounding county-owned property known as the Southeast Regional Park. Is that clear in your opinion, Mr. Straub?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Carroll, yes, if this board so moves to exclude that property, it will not be part of the incorporation.
As probably mentioned earlier by Mr. Huckleberry in an article, we have no real position on the incorporation, but we just are here to provide facts and referrals to anyone who is interested in meeting people who can maybe help them understand the ramifications of the incorporation, as I said, for both pro and con movements. The obvious, there was some confusion earlier on about when these petitions would be passed and what the boundaries would be included in those petitions, and now we're clear that the petitions will be going out on the street, excluding, if this vote is affirmed by the board, the county fairgrounds and the county-owned property known as the Southeast Regional Park. Obviously, we have some letters from neighboring community members and leaders all supporting this move. I don't think anyone's opposed to it. I believe I read in the newspaper that there's two kinds of people in the world, those who just want to be left alone and those who just won't leave them alone. And there's going to have to be some decisions made individually at the ballot box apparently in August. So I moved the approval of the exclusion of the Pima County Fairgrounds and surrounding county-owned property known as the Southeast Regional Park from the boundaries of the proposed town of Vale Incorporation.
Second.
All right, and I know that you mentioned a couple of folks that are here in support of that exclusion as well. We have John Baker, who's the executive director, in the audience, as well as Marvin Sulkey, who's the chair of the board, the Southwest Fair Commission. So the motion before us is the exclusion of the Pima County Fairgrounds and surrounding county-owned property known as the Southeast Regional Park from the boundaries of the proposed town of Vale Incorporation. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please signify by saying nay. Ayes have it. Moving on to item number 1B. Mr. Huckleberry.
Mr. Chairman, this is a culmination of several years of repositioning the county with regard to medical health insurance for our employees. We have historically, traditionally followed the model of purchasing insurance from a provider and then simply paying an annual premium. This shifts the model to self-insurance, a model that's been used relatively successfully in Maricopa County for several years now. We had to make certain adjustments over the long term to our medical benefits program in order to lead us to this particular point in time. That's been done. There was a fairly extensive process of proposal solicitation from providers with regard to certain medical insurance, administrative issues, reinsurance, and COBRA, and a number of are listed in this memorandum. That process involved a very detailed written proposal requirement evaluated by key county staff, our finance director, deputy county administrator for medical services, and our human resources director. In addition to that, after the firms were ranked and shortlisted, they were invited in to provide oral interviews and additional information to not only this group but also our Health and Wellness Committee. And it had been the unanimous recommendation of both groups of individuals to make the awards as listed in the memorandum transmitting this material to you. In addition, the establishment of the program calls for a trust board, and I've recommended very specific membership to you. In the particular rules and information with regard to those board of trustees, there are staggered terms that are recommended. What I would suggest is that if you agree with the members, we will then let our human resources director talk with the members to decide what terms they would particularly like because of simply their availability and timing as to what they would be able to provide service on this trust committee for the county. With that, I think we'd be happy to answer any questions. I think it's beneficial. I'm also recommending that obviously we continue our significant contributions to the health savings accounts for employees for fiscal year 13-14. If adopted, we're looking at, I believe the actuarial analysis indicates that a high-end range of increases for next year would be about 6%, 6.1. The target is 1.9% increase. And if we have a healthy group of employees, we could actually see a 4% reduction in cost. Overall, this is a significant change from what we have probably experienced in the last 5 years, which is probably an average annual increase of anywhere from 15 to 18% in medical and health insurance benefit costs. With that, I think the staff and I would be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Huckleberry, I'm just curious in terms of the Pima County Healthcare Benefits Trust membership. I note there are 4 members, an even number. Why an even number? I mean, we usually have an odd number. I'm just, Alan, yeah, I mean.
Good question. Yeah, Mr. Chairman and Supervisor Bronson, the one thing we failed to mention is that the Human Resources Director is a permanent member of the Board of Trustees,
okay.
So that's 5.
All right.
And there's nothing magic about 5, but it's obviously you'd like to keep it to a model similar to the board.
Right, and but you know, I was a little concerned that we had 4, and in the event there's some decisions to be made and we end up in a tie, that would make life a little more challenging.
So I don't understand. Mr. Bolzomi's going to be a permanent member of this, or the person in his position is going to be the permanent member? Because typically when you have someone who's a permanent member like that, that provides them an unfair advantage in the situation, and typically they're ex officio members, which means they don't vote. That is not what we've discussed to this point. So how do we reconcile ourselves to that?
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Elias, it would not be Mr. Bolzomi, it would be the position, the Director of the Human Resources Department.
I understand, and that puts them in a favorable position beyond other people because, you know, the other 4 of them are appointed by this board. Typically, when you have somebody who stays on a board, especially that's in charge of a big investment pool like this, typically they're ex officio, so that they provide that long-term institutional set of knowledge, but it takes them out of the situation of having to vote on critical matters that perhaps they become a bit jaundiced on over time.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Briscoe, is it to the point?
Mr. Chairman, yes, it is to Mr. Elias's point. I believe that he may have a good idea if Mr. Huckleberry would, no, nothing personal, if it were Gwen Hatcher or you and Mr. Bolzomi, what would be the problem if they had a tie and they referred the tie to be voted on by the Board of Supervisors or something, just to leave Mr. Bolzomi at an arm's length from the decision? It would probably be, in my opinion, maybe more clear. I like the idea that it's a bipartisan board makeup. It's half female, half male. I have no problem with Dr. West or Mr. Boyce, Ms. Taylor or Ms. Marcotte, all fine people. And if there were a tie, maybe, which I would guess there probably wouldn't be. They seem to be people who can come to obvious agreement and probably would never fail to negotiate or mediate a compromise through a discussion. But Mr. Huckleberry, what's your feedback on that idea?
And I appreciate your comment, Mr. Carroll, but let me also add, Mr. Bolzomi, this is not about you. This is about the longer-term picture of things. I trust you, and I think you've been doing a good job. So with that, Mr. Huckleberry, please answer.
Sure, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Obviously, this trustee board doesn't really become operational until the first of the fiscal year with the contract. So we have some time. And what I would suggest is if there's some issues with regard to having our Human Resources Director be a permanent member, we can go back and give you an array of different local governments that have self-insurance medical trust funds and give you some examples of how those boards are structured and see if you're comfortable with. I assume this is probably modeled mostly after Maricopa County.
Well, and that scares me right there, but I'm willing to accept that. And I appreciate if you would do that, Mr. Huckleberry, so that we have some other models to use as examples, and maybe we develop a better understanding of why we might put one of our employees in that kind of position that would seem to create problems into the future, possibly.
Mr. Chairman, just as a follow-up to Supervisor Carroll, suggesting that perhaps things come to the Board of Supervisors, I could not support such an action because it would politicize the process, I'm afraid. And I, again, because of that, could not be supportive of such a recommendation.
Mr. Huckleberry, I have a question. In terms of the length...
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry. Could I ask Supervisor Bronson, could you say that again just because I didn't get it? I'm sorry.
Well, no, if we are the final arbiters, it becomes a political process instead, and I don't think it should be.
The final arbiters of what?
Whatever. If it
The
comes out-
tiebreaker.
The
that I
tiebreaker.
Oh, no,
suggested.
no. We don't want to do that. No.
Yeah.
No,
not at all.
why get
Not at all.
political?
We need to have
All right.
5 voting members on
Come on, guys.
that committee. Yeah, absolutely. I agree totally.
All right, Mr. Huckleberry, the question that I had, we're discussing in terms of, I think the issue is not really who is appointed as much as just that any one member would be a permanent appointee. What is the length of the terms that we're talking about at this point?
Yes, I think it's 1 member for 1 year, 2 members for 2 years, and the balance for 3 years, and then they rotate. So their terms, and they can only be reappointed to one additional term. So two-term limitation and rotational terms.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Supervisor
I
Miller.
just had a question. Who is actually appointing the board members?
Mr. Chairman, it's the board.
The board. Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Carroll.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I can stand rejection. I don't mind at all being rebuffed on the idea. I was just trying to be helpful. I can appreciate rejection. I know the insurance agents in the room have probably felt it as well. But I will say the important thing I find in this description of this new and very it's a transformational subject for our employees. And I want to know, since Supervisor Miller brought up earlier our staff in public relations and media, how well are we going to communicate these transformational changes in the role of our county health care benefit package to the employees? I mean, I think we obviously need to reach out to each and every employee and let them understand completely. I support the transition, absolutely. I think it's a first start. I in fact believe in widening the net even further. But I'm delighted to sign up for it. But I'm going to need some coaching, and I'm sure every other employee will as well. How can we best communicate with the employees their freedom of choice as well as their also obligations to change their enrollment forms and everything else that comes with this? I'm going to support it and endorse it, but I want to make sure that we have some expert input on how we communicate with our employees.
Supervisor Elias.
Well, you know, before we get into speakers, and I'm sure we have some, and I'm sure they have good questions, but the big huge question that I hear from employees consistently, and the one that causes the most trepidation with everybody, is about doctors. So, we have, you know, seen a memo from you, Mr. Huckleberry, saying, you know, what, 90% of our doctors are going to be available to this. How many doctors does that leave off the table that are currently on lists that our current providers find acceptable? Because that's where the fear comes from, that you're going to have some kind of gap in the care that you currently have. We all know we have to pay. We look at the numbers, they seem reasonable, but everybody's scared of losing their doctors because they don't want to cause gaps in the care of loved ones who suffer from chronic illness or of childbearing age. I mean, there's a whole multitude of issues that really come into play when you want to make sure that you don't lose your doctors.
Mr. Huckleberry.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Two answers. First, to the question of how do we communicate with our employees. We'll do that very quickly and very often once the board actually sets in motion this process. And I think that you're right. The most questions that are asked is, are my premiums going to change? And under this particular plan, for most of our employees, they're not going to increase. For those where it does increase, it's about $1.50 a pay period, so it's not a great deal. The second is what is the match? Second most concerning issue is what's the match with regard to the provider network? And in this particular case, the recommended vendor, Aetna, has the largest match of any of the proposers, and that is about 3,000 in-network providers. There's about 48 that are not contracted yet, so that's about a 98% match. 48 in-network providers, and so out of 3,000. And we've had some conversations. I know that I'll let Alan talk about this probably with Aetna, as well as we've only found one non-match yet, and that's a dependent. And so pretty much it's a match of physicians. So Alan, do you want to add something to that? Go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Supervisor Elias, one of the primary concerns throughout this whole process was to limit or minimize the disruption to our employees and their relatives in any type of a transition. I believe that the choice we've made is the least amount of disruption. We have already met with Aetna, and they plan on contacting all of those vendors who are not participants right now to to see if they're willing to move over. We will make every effort, and Aetna will make every effort to contract and to move providers to their network as quickly as possible. As far as the communication to employees, we've already been out and about telling people why we're moving to a self-insurance program, not who we're moving to. Once the board takes action and designates a provider, we will include that in our presentations. It will eventually, and it will be very shortly, on the internet, on our webpage, the county's webpage, so that any employee can bring it up and look at the presentation. We are planning informational meetings throughout the month of April, open enrollment in May, where there will be job fairs. I'm in the wrong mode. In health fairs where people can come and get assistance with their open enrollment and ask questions. So communication is extremely important. There will be not only verbal communication through presentations, there'll be written information sent out to all the employees. We plan on doing a mailer to every single employee in the county, letting them know what's going on. But as far as the providers, there is no 100% match. You can't get there easily. We are going to do our best to make sure we get as close to that as possible.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Alan, and I know that's been a primary objective of what we've been trying to do. But I think that more than ever, today is the day employees really need to hear that and receive some reassurance about that, because it is so critical, and it's just an issue that's at the forefront of everybody's mind. It would be a total mistake to not start the discussion right there in my mind. Please.
The one thing I forgot to mention is when we transition, there is a whole transition of care plan that will be developed, and it is being developed and was proposed. You mentioned critical care for those people that are dealing with certain things. Those people will be transitioned. There will be a form sent to every employee so they can self-identify what transitional issues they have, whether it's a provider, whether it's a certain medical condition, or it's a certain pharmaceutical that they're taking, so that the new TPA can help us transition those folks. And I think one of the pluses of that group is that they had a very good transition plan.
Mr. Chairman,
Supervisor Brunson.
not to belabor the point, but as you're talking about reaching out and educating employees about the new plan, my district is about 7,400 square miles. I got a lot of rural areas with county employees, and I'm assuming you're going to make available to them the same type of process that is available to those of us who live in the urban areas.
Yes, ma'am. We're taking the whole show on the road, as they say. Our presentations will be all over the county. And the best part is you can get it on any computer, either in the county or at your home. You'll have access from any place. If you can get to the internet, you'll be able to get to our presentation and the information.
You're going to actually have a video on some. Okay, great.
It's a voiceover slideshow. No videos yet.
Okay, it's voiceover. So we're doing kind of a PowerPoint.
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions for now?
Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Carroll.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask Mr. Bolzami, you have like a frequently asked questions production that you're going to put on the website? Because, I mean, not everybody is understanding of insurance and its terminology and its concepts as maybe you are. It has to be very fundamental, and I'd also suggest that they have some type of a phone number that they can leave a specific question and be returned by a fellow human to answer that specific question. If I could recommend it, I would certainly think it would be a valuable tool to communicate, because we don't want someone coming later and saying they didn't understand. And it's just a courtesy. I think it is a complicated initiative. It certainly met all green lights from the board, I'm delighted to say, so far it seems. And I just believe that you're on the cutting edge, so you have to prepare for some very difficult question and answers that have to come between us and the staff and the other employees in the line.
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Carroll, thank you. That's a great recommendation. We're in the process of developing the frequently asked questions. Aetna has dedicated a phone number and a representative that will answer any transition questions that they have. Our staff, of course, is always available to answer those questions. We'll be on the road doing that, and both over the phone and in person.
Well, I just know it's not only employees, it's spouses who sometimes manage a portfolio of benefits or insurance or overall finances for a family. So I'm glad that you're doing that. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, I do have one speaker card. I'd like to call Sophia Blue to please come up, identify yourself for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Good morning, Chairman, Supervisors. My name is Sophia Blue, address 3217 East 25th Street. I am a Pima County employee, work at the Quincy Douglas Library. I'm also the Pima Chapter Vice Chair of SEIU, and I also sit on the HIBWAC committee. It's an awful name, but it's it stands for Health Insurance Benefits Wellness Advisory Committee. And I just wanted to say that I was happy to have the opportunity to participate in the process of, choosing this this insurance contract, getting to have that, just be there for that. Let me see what else do I want to say. I think the committee did a great job. It was really helpful to have Alan. Wanted to thank Alan, Gail, everyone on the committee for the great job that they did. It was a lot of work, and they put a lot into it. And I'd like to also thank the county administrator for, understanding the importance of employees having input in this very important decision that affects our lives. And I think that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, any further discussion? If not, what's the will of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I am going to move item 1B, items 1 through 6, awarding the contract for self-insurance.
Let me ask one more thing. We've had a discussion about the appointee of the trustees. That would be attached to item number 2. Is that something I just want to make sure that that's where we wanted to go.
I would prefer that we delay that, and I seconded the motion, but...
Well, let me ask this.
Well, please.
Is it going to make a difference if we delay it, or do we need to adopt it and then revisit it?
Mr. Chairman,
Or-
members of the board, it probably doesn't make much difference other than the folks that we've talked to already and had them
I
agree.
would go ahead and move the appointment of the 4 of them.
Yeah.
And then leave that last position open until we can do a little more research. That way they don't feel like we're budging on anything that we've talked about with them.
I'll amend my motion to include that.
Yeah,
Thank you, and I accept that as a second.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, yeah, we will come back to you, remember, with their terms anyway. And at that time, we'll come back with a report about this other member.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Straub.
Yeah. With that, I guess you'd be approving the trust document with the understanding that there could be a change in the identification of that one person, so that the motion would include that. Just with that,
Correct.
Okay, we'll add that to the
everything else
motion.
with respect to the document is
All right,
fine.
fine.
Okay.
We'll amend them.
All right, any questions or discussion? Hearing none, the motion before us is on the approval on the addendum agenda of item B 1 through 6, with the naming of Henry Boyce, Janet Marcotte, Patricia Taylor, Neil West, and leaving the 5th one open once we have a chance to do some additional research. Is that correct? Correct. All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please signify by saying nay. Ayes have it. Moving to
Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Carroll.
If I could just thank the committee that started this and brought this to a vote today. I know you've all worked very hard. It's, as I said, a very complex issue, and I just wanted to personally thank each and every one of you. Thank you.
Indeed, thank you all.
Mr.
Supervisor Elias.
I'll move the remainder of the addendum.
There's a motion and a second to approve the remainder of the addendum agenda. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please signify by saying nay. Ayes have it.
Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Carroll.
On one item, I just want to thank whoever helped with the Girls Chorus Association. I make mention of that because they're going to renew their contract. Many would probably figure that I was paid to sing with the Girls Chorus last month at their annual fundraiser. I recommend each and every board member give it a whirl someday. I do want to apologize to Marcella Molina for being off-key, out of range, but since the audience was semi-inebriated, they all put up with me, except for, of course, the girls' chorus, who I sang with, was totally sober. And again, thank you very much for whoever worked on that. It was a very sobering. In range, but out of key. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Carroll. Is there anyone here who would like to address the board of the call of the public? Hearing none, this meeting stands adjourned.